All right, real quick, we're gonna walk you around your Siccario and just give you a quick introduction into a few questions you might have regarding prop orientation, getting the camera mounted and powering the camera, as well as just some of your other little features. So when you get your Siccario, it's gonna be set up with whatever mount you have. In this case, we're looking at a Komodo mount. The side plates are loose. They tighten up when you put the camera into the mount and tighten it down. On the Komodo mount in particular, there is a purposeful external, like reverse friction. That is, the arms of the carbon are going to bend inward slightly, which cause them to actually pull against the camera. That's intended. It's intended to stabilize the camera, being that it's so big and that it has a lot of mass to it. That really helps kind of tighten up the mount. So don't worry when you first get the Komodo in there, like we will here. We'll drop this one in just to show you that there's going to be some gap on the side. That's 100% intended. Again, once you tighten everything down, that reverse friction, or that force that's being pulling on the camera, is going to really hold it in place. Also, your mount shifts and it goes forward and backward. Most people are going to want to run that all the way forward, and you're going to want to make sure you balance the battery with the COG of where the camera is. So if you have the camera shifted forward and you have a decently heavy lens, you may want to go ahead and shift that battery a little bit backward, or keep everything nice and clean and tight when possible. So when it gets to the battery, by the way, you're just going to strap your battery in here. I like to have the power wire coming from the back side of the camera to go straight in. If you have a little bit longer of a battery wire, you might want to run it from the back across. Whatever you do, make sure that if you're not using this plug, which powers the camera, this puts out 12 volts and it powers up to 8 amps at a time continuous. If you're not using it, you need to make sure that gets either tucked into your battery strap, or you may want to zip tie or tape it somewhere. Keep it nice and out of the way of the props, because it will accidentally hit a prop, and that is live voltage coming out. You'll also need to make your own power cable for your camera using an XT30. So you can go ahead and just take an XT30. We try to include them in your kits. If you do have them, just take them and you can cut your other cables and connect them that way. On the bottom, after we take our camera off, you'll see the BEC. This is the BEC that's providing the 12 volts of power. It's powering directly off the ESC's battery pads. So it's getting direct voltage from your main battery. The landers on the bottom, they are replaceable if you lose them. We try to include some extras, but if for some reason you don't have them, we can get you the files to print. On the dampener plate, if you are going to go ahead and take the dampener plate off for any reason, you want to hold and compress the dampeners as much as possible when putting them on and off to keep them from spinning. You want to hold the carbon and even hold the plastic ring at the bottom when you're pulling out the screws. If they start to spin, they will twist up those alpha gels, and you may need to get more down the road. So just be really careful if you're pulling that off. Last bit of information is going to be the USB port has now been relocated back here to the backside. So you'll have that USB port able to go ahead and plug into and access the flight controller. No need to access by pulling off the antenna or anything else. And you also will have your Diversity Nano right here with the button very accessible for you to press there to get it all bound up. So this really walks you around the introduction of your Siccario. If you have any questions or anything, please feel free to email, message, or call us. We look forward to seeing the content you make with it. All right, so we've done the introduction, and now we're going to quickly tell you about your props and how to orient them on each part of the drone. So with the front of the nose here, we've got motor 1, motor 2, motor 3, and motor 4. On all of these props, on the top, you're basically going to be using your standard prop orientation. So we have the flat edge, or the trailing edge of the prop, that's facing forward, and it's facing backward, outward. On the bottom prop is actually on the motor upside down. However, it is oriented just like the top prop, as far as the top of the prop is on top and the bottom of the bottom is on bottom. But the trailing edge on this prop spins the other direction. So looking downward, the two trailing edges should come together, and they should come together basically like a pair of scissors. If you had something between them, it would cut them. This is how the props are going to go on your Siccario, and it goes all the way around. So again, top is going to be standard rotation. Bottom is as if you had reverse rotation, because that is the direction that those props will spin. All right, we've talked about props and we've talked about your introduction. Now let's talk about mounting the Komodo camera. You're going to receive these aluminum brackets that need to be first attached to the side of your Komodo camera. Once those are attached, you can go ahead and slide it into the mounts. The brackets are going to be loose. You can zip tie them if you'd like, or put a little zip tie into the side here to keep them on, but for the most part, they should stay pretty well on the drone whenever it's in its case. Position the camera to where it lines the holes up, front and rear, and you can go ahead and attach those with the included screws and one washer. Once you get those in their holes and all four positioned, you can go ahead and move the camera forward. You can slide it all the way forward, backward where you're going to position it, and then you can angle the camera and you're going to tighten down those screws. You'll need your own hex tool for that. We unfortunately don't have those yet to provide, but you'll tighten those down nice and tight on all four, and your camera is going to be nicely seated. Again, like we stated in the introduction, you will have a small gap at the lower portion of the carbon. That's intended. It's intended for the friction and the force of those carbon plates to be pulling on the camera, which will help keep the mass of the camera centered and stabilized on the plate. So that's going to be how you're going to attach your Komodo. Hope that helps.